At some point, sport stops being something you do and starts being something you are. It doesn't happen all at once, and no one announces it. It happens quietly. You stop introducing yourself without mentioning it. Your schedule revolves around it. Your mood follow it. Good sessions feel like good days. Bad sessions feel heavier than they should. And slowly, without realizing it, performance starts to matter in a different way. Not just because you want to improve, but because improvement begins to feel tied to who you are. That's when sport becomes dangerous, not physically, psychologically, because sport is very good at giving you an identity. I'm a weightlifter, I'm an athlete, this is what I do. Those statements feel grounding. They give shape to your life, they give you a place to belong. But sport never promises to protect that identity, and eventually it tests it. Sometimes through injury, sometimes through stagnation, sometimes through age or timing or circumstance. Sometimes nothing dramatic happens at all. You just wake up one day and you realize you're not who you used to be under the bar. The weights feel heavier, recovery takes longer. People you once outpaced are now ahead of you. And if your identity is fused to performance, that realization lands hard. Because now it's not just about lifting less, it feels like being less. This is the part few people talk about honestly. The grief that comes when sport stops reflecting back the version of yourself you're attached to. You didn't quit, you didn't lose discipline, you didn't stop caring, but the relationship changed. And you don't know what to do with that yet. Some people respond by doubling down, more volume, more intensity, more pressure. They try to force the old identity back into place. Others pull away entirely. They disappear from the gym. They avoid the bar. They pretend it never mattered that much anyway. Both reactions come from the same place: fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being replaceable, fear of losing the one thing that made you feel solid. Sport exposes that fear because it doesn't care how attached you are to a version of yourself, it moves on without you. And that's painful. But there's something important happening here if you let it. This is where sport offers its most difficult lesson. It asks you to separate worth from output, to ask a question that's easy to avoid when things are going well. Who am I if this doesn't define me anymore? That question doesn't have a quick answer, and that's okay because the identity break isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to refine you. Sport doesn't strip identity to leave you empty. It strips it to see what remains, what's left when numbers don't impress you anymore, when totals don't validate you, when being good isn't guaranteed. What remains is usually quieter, but stronger. You still show up, not to prove anything, but because the process matters. You still care, not because it defines you, but because it's part of you. You begin to relate to sport differently. Less ego, less desperation, more honesty. You stop chasing the version of yourself that once was and start working with the version that is. That transition is uncomfortable, but it's also where maturity lives. Because sport was never meant to be your identity, it was meant to shape it, to teach you discipline without obsession, commitment without attachment, pride without fragility. When you let go of needing sport to tell you who you are, you don't lose it. You gain something deeper: perspective. You become harder to shake, less reactive, more grounded. The bar still matters, but it doesn't own you. And that shift changes everything. It changes how you train, how you miss, how you recover, how you walk away from sessions that don't go your way. You stop personalizing every outcome. And that's not weakness, that's resilience. But getting there requires passing through something most people avoid: the moment where sport stops affirming you and starts confronting you. That's the identity break. And it's not the end. It's the crossing. Because once your identity is no longer fragile, sport introduces a new challenge. It stops asking who you are and starts asking how you handle discomfort when there's nothing left to protect. In the next episode, we're going to talk about that, about pain, about pressure, about learning to suffer without panic. Because that skill, more than strength, more than talent, is what determines who stays long enough to truly be changed by this.